Hey everyone, LectureDude here. So I've set up another worksheet for row reduction. You should take a look at that in the comments. Download it, work on it, do whatever, or just watch me do some problems. I'm going to go over number 1 and number 4 in the worksheet right now. So our basic technique for solving systems of linear equations, so you have a couple things and you're solving for x and y. We've already determined in my last lecture that what you want to do is turn it into a matrix of the form ax equals b. So you want x vector, b vector, and a as a matrix. So we gather up all these numbers into a matrix called A. So we have 5, -2, 1, 3. We have our x vector, which is xy in this case, because we have x and y multiplied through. And then our b vector is just the answer, 6, 8. So now, to solve for x and y, we have to turn this into a super augmented matrix, or a regular augmented matrix, which is basically taking out the x and y. Which looks like that. So now what we want to do is make this diagonal should be 1s eventually, and then the rest, everything else in the same column should be 0. So this is going to be 0, this is going to be 0. So we'll start with eliminating the zeros. So remember, we can multiply by a scalar, we can swap rows, or we can add together the rows. Those are the three things we can do with this. So, first we're going to try, we want to be able to subtract these to make 0 down here. So we want to make them the same. So let's multiply -5 times r2. So, since we're not doing anything in the top row, it's the same. This is multiplied by -5 all the way through, so -5, -15, -40. Then we want to add up the rows to get the 0. So row 1 plus row 2. Again, this column stays the same, and we just add these two together. So 0, -17, and -34. This looks a little messy. Don't really want to work with that, so we can simplify that by dividing -17, and still doesn't change up here, and it becomes 0, 1, 2. So we have our 0 here, our 1 here, and it's nice and simple to work with. So now we move on to getting the top row into the right format. We just do the same thing. So we want to add these two rows to make it work out. So what I do is multiply that bottom row by 2. And you keep multiplying it out. Then you get to add the rows. So this time we're adding them into the top row. So add row 2 to row 1. This row doesn't change, but the top row changes. 5 plus 0 stays as 5. That's a 0, and that's a 10. So now we have all our zeros, we just need to divide out so we get 1s. So 1/5 of row 1 and 1/2 of row 2. Multiply that through, and it's 1, 0, 2, and 0, 1, 2. This right here is our answer. So x, which is the first one, so x equals 2, y equals 2. There's your answer. Nice and simple. It's much easier once you get it down in this form instead of plugging in x and y, doing some substitution. Substitution works for something this small, but once you get to bigger matrices, or bigger sets of numbers, then you'll start to have problems. Like this. So now I'm going to do number 4 on the worksheet. This time we have a 3 by 3, so it's a bit more complicated. This is why you want to use a matrix. Because substitution, we get very nasty trying to solve that. So we start with our equation. We take out the x so that we can put it in an augmented matrix. And now we just want to solve. Well, we find what's our diagonal. Where do we want the ones? 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. So we turn the rest into zeros. So first we take, we have a 0 here, so we want to get this to be 0. So we're going to add, we can see that we have -3 times this row plus this row. That'll give us 0. So we want to just add that up. So we have hold on. We want -3 times this row plus this row. So -3r1 plus r3. We're turning that into a matrix, so we don't change the top row because that's still the same as before. The middle row is also not being changed, just the bottom row. So we take -3 times this plus this, so that'll give us 3 minus 3, which is 0. That's what we're trying to go for. We got to do the same thing to the rest of the row. So 6 plus 4, and we have -12 plus 1, and then we have 9 minus 6. That's 3. So now we want to narrow down our other columns. One thing about row reducing is that it's always easier to do it by eliminating this part first. Turn all that into zeros before you do the top part. It just makes things simpler. So we're going to want to make that one a 0. First I can see that this row is divisible by 2, so I'm just going to divide that by 2 really quick. Because it's a lot easier to work with nice numbers. So divide by 2. And now we want to keep going, so as you can see, we can add -5 times this row plus this row. That'll give us a 0 right here. So let's do that. -5 times the second row plus the third row. The reason why we don't choose the first row is because if we add these together, this 0 wouldn't stay here. You need to add the 2 rows that already have zeros in them, because we're trying to get as many zeros as we can. If they fall out, we're doing it wrong. So we take -2 times 5, that's -10 plus 10. We'll just do the bottom row first. So that comes out to 0. 5 minus 11, that's -6. And 15 plus 3, 18. And then the other rows didn't change, so we can just write them down. And now we have a bunch of zeros, so we can simplify this pretty quickly. Oops. What was that? So now we want to, let's just make the numbers simple, so divide this row by -6. And again, they don't change. This row is just the same thing, divided by -6, so that's 1, -3. Now we know one of the values, so we can use this 1. Since there are 2 zeros here, we don't have to worry about them changing the column, so we can use this 1 to clear out the rows above it. Right here. So we know that 1 minus 1 is 0, so that's just row 3 plus row 2. And we know -4 plus 4 is 0, so -4 R3 plus R1. That'll give us what we want. So this row doesn't change. And we just add them up, so we're adding zeros to these two, so these ones don't change. -4 plus 4 is 0. And then 12 minus 3. Did I do that right? -4 times -3, so that's 12, plus a -3. That's 9. And then we have just add row 2 and row 3, so 0 plus 0 is 0. Leave the 2 there. This also becomes 0. This is -6. Alright, and since we need this 0 to stay here to get this out, we have to add these 2 rows. But since it's 2 and -2, it's nice and easy to add. So row 2 plus row 3, and that -1 stays there. 2 minus 2 is 0. This is 0. -6 plus 9 is 3. And then these rows don't change. And now we have all our zeros. Now we just gotta turn these into ones. So negative row 1 and 1/2 row 2. So we get 1, 0, 0, -3, 0, 1, 0, -3, 0, 0, 1, -3. So now we have our answer on the left-hand side, or the right-hand side, sorry. And our answer is the x vector equals this thing. -3, -3, -3. And you're done. Hope you enjoyed this demonstration. If you want me to work any more problems, or if you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section. And I'll be getting to my next lecture shortly. Hope to see you there.